I think I was being accused of universalism for years before I actually was one, because it's something that evangelicals deploy to undermine the authority and credibility of anybody that they think might be trending in that direction. So usually we'll sit sort of kind of conservative as soon as they hear the word Bart will accuse you of universalism like him, when of course there are plenty of good Bart scholars that don't think he was and have good reasons for saying that, and who will deny that they're universalists on the same grounds. So I was aware of the conversation before I think I really felt this was the case and that there was no point in holding back. And people I respect enormously they've stopped short of kind of going the whole hog. But it's a bit like C.S. Lewis getting on the bus. He's not a Christian. And one day he gets on the bus. He's not a Christian. He gets off and he is. I don't know when. I think it was pressure from some of my students. I would teach them everything I knew. This is where we end up. And they would say, well, you should be a universalist. And I'd be like, no, 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 we're more subtle than that. They'd say, why? And I'd go, well, try and think of reasons, all of which were quickly dispatched with. And then I guess they challenged me to be a little bit more upfront. And then I would say, well, it's rhetorically difficult. I mean, I might lose half the class. I'm there to try and persuade them about the gospel, and I don't want this to get in the way. I want them to. I talk about getting on the Jesus train in my class, and let's follow the Jesus train. And some of you are going to get off, and you think that Jesus has gotten off the train as well. And if you get off the train with him because he's gotten off the train, fine. I'm staying on the train. And they all get off when we hit universalism. So those guys. So universalism gets treated here, not in its correct dogmatic location, but around about chapter 18. Then I can keep people on the train till chapter 17. And if I've kept them on the train to chapter 17, I'm happy. We don't have to fight about what happens on the day of judgment. But for me and my part, I'm just too old now to not be what I am. And I am just a completely convinced universalist if it's the truth. I'm just going to roll it out there as gently as I can. I think this is good news. I think this is something that witnesses to the integrity and the character of God. And if you don't go this route, you are going to get yourself into trouble and you're holding back from the goodness of God. And as I've gotten more comfortable with this position and explored it more, it's amazing how much it simplifies theological position in a good way, and also solves a lot of problems. So writing Pauline Dogmatics, you've got to kind of tackle colonial issues, post-colonial and colonial accounts of mission. You've got to kind of get into that stuff a little bit and have some answers there. Very important questions. And I found I could not find a solution to the colonial problem intrinsic to mission work where I arrive with the good news and tell you what your problem is and what your solution is, and inevitably approach you from a position of superiority. Really important colonial kind of dynamic implicit in that. I couldn't deal with that apart from universalism. Deploying universalism theologically deals with the othering problem that we confront in our missionary work. And I'm like, damn, that's useful. So if someone's not a universalist now, I ask them straight away, so how do you deal with the kind of implicit colonialism of mission? Normally they're not worried about that, but one day they will be, and they should be worried about it. So these sorts of things compound, and you build it into your dogmatics, and you realize what a relief it is. I build it into my personal devotional life, my personal practical life. Universalism gives you hope in the face of darkness and despair. It gives you hope in the face of structures that are overwhelmingly oppressive. that show no sign of being dismantled or reversed. It takes great faith to be a universalist, but if you can live there, it's not just a theological position, it's a spiritual position. It's a position where you learn to pray differently. You learn to look at reality differently. I think in a very healthy way, a very serene way. So I'm still living into that. I'm still growing into that. But there have been very important spiritual and devotional consequences flowing from the theological position, which ultimately helped me to navigate my work with prisons and mass incarceration. Now, I'm not the finished product there. Howard Thurman was the finished product. Howard Thurman was grounded in the universal love of God in a way that was mystically overwhelming. And that grounded his incredibly powerful and passionate civil rights work, which then flowed on into people like Martin Luther King. So I see in Howard Thurman the enormous practical, devotional strength and dignity that comes from, yeah,